Hey everyone, welcome to Studio Z. I'm Pete, and if you haven't already figured it out, and judging by the smile on my face, my Shapeoko 5 Pro has finally arrived. And today, we're going to be unboxing it, assembling it, and hopefully ultimately showing it in its resting place under my build table. So without further ado, let me show you how it arrives. So here are the boxes as they come from UPS and FedEx. They came separately, the two large boxes, so 1 and 2. I also got the instead of using a router, I went with the VFD spindle, and I also got the little bit 0. And so these boxes, they weigh about 120 to 130 pounds a piece. So each box, it's 2-person lift to get both of them. They are quite heavy. And they're in pretty good shape, considering how heavy they are, and that most UPS trucks only have one driver. I had to help the guy off the truck with it, but I have to say, many things that I've ordered, this is not bad, for how it arrived. One was upside down, but I don't think that's a really big deal, and I, as you can tell, I haven't opened them yet, so fingers crossed, nothing's damaged inside. So let me set up the camera and we'll start opening up the boxes. Okay, so I'm just going to start cutting the tape on the end. It doesn't look like they flip up, so I'm going to end up having to cut the top of the box, and just to make it easier to get inside. And be real careful not to try to go too deep and possibly cut into something underneath. But oh, it looks like there's an outer box and an inner box. Wow, that's really cool. Very well packaged so far. And there we go. Got a paper there with the resource page to go to their website and find all kinds of tutorials. So let's see what we got. I'll do one box at a time first. It actually even tells you. I have the 4-foot by the 4-foot CNC router, so this clearly tells you to open first. I'm going to set that on top of my table saw, so I'll put the smaller stuff in an easy to access area. This is the electronics. I'm going to set that aside as well. This box contains the Z assembly, which is what the spindle or the router will mount to. Once I open the boxes and I get all the parts out, then we'll change the camera and I'll focus on the build table where I will be assembling it. All right, so this is the subframe for it. The 2 rails that go along the sides, and the base frame is underneath as well. I'm going to, oh, cool. Wow, this stuff is really, really well packed. There is like a dense foam that covers everything, and it's very well packed in there. Yeah, actually, I'm going to leave these in here for now So these are the base rails because I have to assemble the hybrid table first, and then these will go on top of it, and I'd rather keep them in a safe place for now until I get to that point. So what I'm going to do then is open the other box now. Again, everything is packed extremely well. With this, again, same black foam, extremely rigid and very protective. I mean, I'm really impressed. Yeah, this is the gantry, and then below it is the table slats themselves. So I am going to pull out the gantry, set it to the side so I can get to the hybrid table parts underneath. I'll set this down on the floor until I need it. Wow, everything. I'm really impressed at how well everything comes packaged. Very impressed. So here I've got my two long rails, both left and right side. I've got the hybrid table parts here, the gantry, which the router mounts to. So these are all of the boxed parts. Contains all the hardware, electronics, the Z assembly, which is what the spindle router mounts to, and then the actual spindle at the end. And my little bit zero back there. So let me set up the camera, focusing on the build table, and we will start to get into the assembly. So I went ahead and I opened up the boxes, just open them to show you how it actually comes in the box of the other smaller boxes. And this one that said open first comes with what they call a quick draw. I imagine this is probably for sweepy, which is the dust collection. Comes with the assembly manual. It comes with an extra spare limit switch. So got an extra spare limit switch. Let's see, it comes with sweepy. So sweepy is the dust collection unit that clips onto the bottom of the spindle or your router. It comes with some of the clamps that they give you, a bit to start with, some kind of touch-up pens, zip ties, all kinds of miscellaneous. Oh, and the T-track, the nuts as well. So this is the work holding kit. Pretty cool so far. This is maintenance, so this is the oil kit. Comes with like droppers as well too. This is the base frame and hybrid table hardware box. And then it also comes with hex keys and other screws and little wrenches and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the one box that it said to open first. I went ahead also then, and this is the electronics box. And so this comes with, first I'll pull out the power pendant, which is basically the on-off switch for the machine, the reset button or the pause button as well. You got emergency stop and the pause button. And let's see, we've also got the bit setter. So this is for locating the bit. Once you have it, it knows its height in the Z-axis. And let me go ahead then and open these other boxes. This is the controller box, and this is basically what everything hooks into. And they come with a USB cable to hook up your laptop or computer to it. It comes with the power pendant grounding block and cable. let's see, it's also got a spindle adapter cable, a power cord for the controller box, and then again the controller itself, which everything hooks into. Okay, so that's the one box. Then you've got the wiring harness as well, with the chain and all of the other wiring that will have to go through it. And I'm not going to pull all those out at this time, but you can basically see how that's all coming to you. Then we've got the Z assembly. Again, this is the structure that the router or your spindle will mount to. And again, everything very well packaged. These are the end caps for the rails. The Z-axis motor. This is the Z-axis itself, hardware for it. I will see if I can get this foam off the top, or actually no, it's just set in there. So that is the actual Z-axis. It's really heavy duty. I mean, this stuff is, you know, billet aluminum stock. The fixture for it is really massive. Like, I can't stress it enough. This stuff is really, really, really well built. And I'm very impressed. I mean, I have to say, very impressed with the build quality here so far. So I'm just going to set some of this stuff back in. And moving on, this is the spindle itself. This is, again, how it comes. I haven't opened anything yet. A lot of packaging material. But, oh wow, this actually comes with wrenches. I mean, actual wrenches, metric wrenches, the power cord for it, and the actual cable that connects to the spindle. And then, so this is, it's all wrapped up. I'll unwrap it later, but this is the VFD, the variable frequency drive, that powers the spindle itself, which is in here. And again, I'll unpack these later. I'm going to need both hands to do it. But so the 1.2 kilowatt spindle is in here. This is the VFD drive that powers it. And yeah, it looks really cool. I have to say, I'm thoroughly impressed. And then lastly, the last box that I have is the Bit Zero. And I went ahead and ordered this because once you've clamped your stock to the table, Bit Zero will attach to the corner of your stock, and the bit will come down and it will locate your material in X, Y, and Z axis so that it knows exactly where it is on the table. It has locating pins that you put into the collet of the spindle itself, and it uses those to touch and find where your piece is. So this was an extra. It doesn't come with the kit, obviously, nor does the spindle. The spindle is an upgrade as well. But I wanted to go full, you know, the full gamut with this. I didn't want just a router. I wanted the machine to be able to control the speed of the router. I wanted something with more power, and so I went with the spindle. And I also figured this would be a great way to locate the pieces as well. Okay, so now that we've seen what's in all of the boxes, I will now focus on getting stuff laid out to start the build. So I've gone ahead and I've laid out the base rails on my build table. I want to point out too that these base rails are really heavy duty. This is 1/4 inch wall extruded aluminum tube, rectangular tube, and really serious stuff. Like, it's really heavy duty. Everything has been, pre-drilled and threaded already for all the bolts that have to go in it. And I've laid it out as they've said to roughly do, which is there's the 4 rails. They're approximately 15 3/4 inches apart. So just so you understand, this is the front of the machine, and the rails will be going down that way, on either side, and then the gantry will go across this way. This is the only way I had enough room on my table. Again, this is not its final resting place. It is only where I'm going to be assembling it. It will then go underneath this table, which I've already allotted for the space that it needs. So let me go ahead. I'm going to grab one of the rails and I will start setting it in place. So here I've set the rail. It is the right side rail on the base, and it's simply 8 screws on one side, and very well machined. They recommend all of this gets done by hand so that you don't cross thread any of the holes, and to not fully tighten them yet, because once it's put together, the whole frame has to be squared. So I just want to locate each one first, and then from there I'll put in the rest of the screws. Okay, so that's it for the right side rail. Again, loosely attached. And now I will get the left side rail and do the same. I have the left rail now loosely put on the base supports. And I've just got one screw in just to hold it in place. It's a little awkward with one person. So I went ahead and did that off camera just to make sure it didn't fall. But I'm just going to do the same as the other side. Eight screws and loosely put in. Okay, so I've gone ahead, and the next step was to pull the gantry from the box and just set it on top of the 2 rails. And I've gone off, I've done that off camera just because, again, it's a little awkward to get it on there with one person, but it's not impossible. It's a little heavy, but it's not terribly. And I've also just loosely put in the screws. It's only four bolts that hold it on. There's 2 on each side. I've roughly squared the machine. I've also turned the machine now so that it's much easier to film it and for you to see it. So I'm just going to go ahead and lightly tighten these 4 bolts. I'm not fully tightening them yet, but I just want to make sure that it doesn't move around. And there is a reference. So there's a machined edge on it that you have to push the gantry up against firmly to make sure that it is engaged fully forward, and then you can tighten down the screws. I'm going to do the same on the other side, just to make sure. I did it before, but I want to show that on camera. Yep. Okay, and so for installing the gantry, that's pretty much all that's left to it. So now that the gantry is roughly installed and still everything is loose, you have to square the machine. And it's very important that it's perfectly square. And so what I've done is I've measured diagonally from the same point on each side, as you can see there. And you want to make sure that you get the exact same measurements on both, both sides, which I have. And then the machine is square. And you can then go ahead and lock down and firmly tighten all of the screws that we originally had put in and left loose. And as you do this, you do 2 and 2. You push the gantry to the next set of screws to make sure there's no binding, and then you tighten those as well. And just to ensure that you have a smooth operation, and that's what it says in the manual. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through these 16 screws, and then once I have that, I will firmly lock down the gantry screws, and then we can move on to the table. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten down the back one to make sure that nothing shifts from my original setting. And then I'll check it as I pass through each one to make sure there's no binding. But I want to make sure that it locks in and I don't shift diagonally, the square that I've set. Okay. And I'll check it again just to make sure that nothing has shifted once I tighten down everything, just to make sure it maintains square. It's moving very smoothly. I don't feel any binding. Again, I can't emphasize how well this machine is built. There is no play in anything. It is solid as can be. The rails are all fully powder coated, and again, the same 1/4 inch thick wall, extruded aluminum. It's really impressive. And to get to this step is really simple. I mean, it's taken no time at all. Just to, you basically have a machine already, and I think this has only taken me like 15 minutes in real time. So very simple. I'm sure, the board, the table part with all the screws is going to take a long time, but it's just repetitive stuff, so it's really nothing major. Okay. So now I'm going to check it again, make sure nothing has shifted. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so the next step is to install the Z-axis onto the gantry. There's 2 locating pins on the back of it, so it's pretty straightforward as to where it goes. And it's held in place by four screws, 4 bolts. You install 2 of them first, then you slide the mechanism down and it uncovers the other 2, or you push it up. But they tell you to install 2 of the bolts first before you attempt to let go of it or try to move it. Okay, and that's it for bolting on the Z-axis. Okay, so now I'm going to install the X-axis motor, and it's pretty straightforward. There's a coupler that mates with the other end of the coupler inside, and it's a pretty tight fit, so you know it's pretty straightforward. You want the wires going to the back of the machine, and then it's just four screws that hold it in place. You can see it's got a really precise, tight fit on that coupler. Okay, now that I've got them all in, I can firmly tighten them down. Okay. So the next step involves the hybrid table, and this is pretty repetitive process. I will lay it out first, and then I will, like I said, I'll speed it up during the repetitive, boring parts of just a lot of screws, so that we don't have to, you don't have to see all that. Like I said, it's once you've done it, it's all the same over and over and over. That's a lot of screws. So just a repetitive process, nothing difficult. So now for the slats. Okay, and that's it for the hybrid table. Pretty simple, I have to say. And everything, again, fits perfectly. There's no holes that are off, or anything like that. But I have to say, very well built, very well machined. Okay, so now I'm going to attach the drag chain on the right side and attach it to the rail. This is simply 4 screws to attach it. Okay, so the drag chain is physically mounted in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and do all of the connections. I'll do that off camera. It's going to take a little while, and then I'll just show you what it's like when it's finished. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm about to install the spindle on the Z-axis. And full disclosure, I went ahead and I already installed the the drive chain on for the spindle cable, and that is this cable right here that loops around and comes all the way back, routes this way and down the side rail, and exits, the back of the machine. So I'm gonna be honest, I went through this twice, took it apart twice because I did it wrong, and it is confusing to say the least. The instruction manual isn't very descriptive about how that is laid out. The video doesn't quite help tremendously either. It's very confusing as to the orientation of the ends of these pieces and how to route the wire through them. It basically wants you to route the wire from the end of it first all the way backwards and come up to the front. I don't know, I just couldn't do it right. So I did it off camera because there was a lot of cussing involved in getting that to work out right, to be totally honest. And I just finally got it to work. And again, it's not the machine, it's not the way it's built, it's just the way that it is instructed to do it. They need to work on a better instruction to get that done. That's really confusing. It's a simple thing, but these ends on these are very confusing. And if you get it wrong, you have to start all over again and pop out all of the snap-on links that go on. It's very annoying. But anyway, aside from that, again, it's not the machine's fault. It's the way it was written to show you how to do it. But it's done. And so now I'm about to mount the spindle, and and then this part will be finished, and then it's just a few more sensors that have to get put on. So let me swap the camera and I will mount the spindle. Okay, so the spindle just slides in the place of the router, and the only thing that I don't know is the height of it. I'm going off of what I found on the video. They basically have a guide for this, how to put it on based on you having a router and just swapping this out for the router. I didn't have that, so I don't know where to start. And I'm just kind of guessing off of what I saw from them that looks like it's about the right height. I guess it can be adjusted afterward, but it's not a big deal to loosen it, and go up and down. It's simply held in by these two bolts, and it clamps it into place, and it's pretty simple. But again, there really isn't a true instruction as to how high this should be mounted, and a little unclear. But again, not a big deal. These have to be fairly tight, so. So I think, as far as the spindle is concerned, it's all ready to go. Just wire in the connector for it, which is slotted, so it can only go in one way. And that's pretty easy. Okay, I think I've left enough cable for it to be able to maneuver up and down and not get out of the way. Once I see it in action, I'll know if I can, reduce this a little bit and, tidy it up, make it look a little cleaner. I'm like that. I like things a certain way. But yeah, so now I'm just going to move on to some of the sensors that are left. Okay, so the final sensor to be put in place is the bit setter. That will sit right here, and it's orientated so that the connector is facing to the right, into the rail. and that simply goes into place with these tease nuts that go in the T-track. And I will note, because I've already gone through this, but the bolts that come with the kit are a hair too long and they bottom out in the T-track. So I had to grind I don't know, maybe a 1/16 or so off of the end. Otherwise you couldn't tighten the bit setter down. It wouldn't, because it would bottom out and it wasn't getting tight. So I just want to note that it's not a big deal, but like I said, from the factory, you have to modify it a little bit. That sits all the way forward, flush with the rail. And that's that. And then you just connect it. Okay, that should be it for that. So next up, I'm going to make a custom, let's say, a board that I will mount underneath my table here, so that I can set and mount the control box underneath on this side here. So the control box will go in between these two pillars on a plywood that I will mount in between there. And then I'd like to mount the VFD box right over here somewhere so that I can see it from the front, because it gives a digital readout of the RPM that the spindle is turning. And then I will also mount the emergency stop button and the pause button, somewhere over here like this. Again, make it look nice. And I'm going to drop the machine into its resting place on the floor in between the legs of the build table. All right, we are back. And it was a long afternoon, but I finally got it done. And she has finally found her new home. And I think it turned out pretty cool. I really like how it fits, and it's like the perfect fit underneath there. I'll just give you a rundown of what I did. I did a lot of custom fab stuff because I wanted to make it really fit nice under here and have everything nice and neat, as everything else is in my shop, So what I did was I tucked the VFD up in the back there, so that it's visible. I can see the RPM that it's turning, and get to it if I need to. It's still out of the way, so it shouldn't be a problem. I tucked most of the wires that go to it. I tried to keep them really nice and neat and tucked away. I mounted the emergency stop switch right in the front with the pause button. And below it, I have the wrenches for the spindle, so they're quick and easy access to get to. On the side here, I have the control box in the back there. Again, easy to get to. I mounted a panel inside, as you saw, that runs the whole length across. And so I mounted the control box to that. And while I was at it, I said to myself, because I'm going to be using the dustless on this, the vac, and the machine alone needs a 20 amp circuit to run, I figured, why don't I wire up the outfeed table with outlets on either side. This way, I can power both the VFD and the machine and then have an extra outlet when the machine's not operating. I'll have an extra outlet, on either side, so that I can get, routers, whatever I need on top, the track saw. So that's what I pretty much spent the whole afternoon doing, was running a series of outlets, on the table. So I got one on that side, and then on this side, again, next to the VFD, I've got another one. So I have an open outlet to, again, power whatever I need to on both sides. It's really cool. I don't know why I didn't do that a long time ago, but I got it now. And it was worth the long afternoon of, putting it all together. And I still have plenty of room, like on the back side of my table. It's very easy to just step over the rail and come back here. I have a little shelf that I built for my laptop to sit on, and I have the USB wire hanging underneath because I haven't plugged it in yet. But that's my plan, is to keep it underneath there. And, I'll see how the dust goes with it, and, either make a hood or something like that to cover it with, with some type of material or something, just to keep the dust from going inside the laptop. But yeah, I really like how it turned out, and I can't wait to get started making stuff. It really fit perfectly in there. Can only say that it's almost like, you've got this giant machine, it's 4 foot by, it's 5 foot by 5 foot by the time the footprint's complete. And I really don't even notice that it's there. Like, it's in the sense of working around the table and stuff. So this is a great, addition, and hopefully it will start churning out parts and, all kinds of different things. I can't wait to explore what it can do. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. The assembly is complete. I think it was a success. I'm really happy that the way this turned out and how it fit. I was really worried about getting a CNC router because of my limited space, and I thought that I'd never be able to get one because it just wouldn't fit in here, and I'd be dedicated to a 5 foot by 5 foot spot in my shop that would never be able to do anything else but have a CNC router. And now that I've put it underneath my build table, I literally don't even know that it's here. Like, it's fantastic. So if that helps anybody else out, and maybe you can do the same, that's awesome. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. There's going to be a lot more videos coming up for the CNC router. The next thing is going to be, I'm going to make my first project will be my shop logo sign, and that's going to go right there. I took out the heater that was on the wall, and that will be the new home for the sign. So be sure to look for that. I probably will have that in about a week. And also part 2 of the storage bench, you'll see the finishing of that as well. That's coming up. So stay tuned, and I'll see you.